One other way in which Torah values have been exported to parts of the world, and that I know you're quite passionate about, is America. This is something, we actually did a JTV video on this a few years ago, and I studied this at college actually. The ways in which the Bible played such a fundamental role in influencing the founders of America and their concept of the kind of country they wanted to build, having fled from the tyranny of European monarchies and structures, and religious authoritarianism and all that kind of stuff. They sort of saw themselves as this doing this Exodus 2.0. And I wondered if you could just share with our viewers a little bit about your feelings of the Torah's influence on America and American values, because I think America is in some ways one of the Torah's greatest creations.
Oh, 100%. And it's so much more juicy for me to hear that from someone from Britain. Say give.
It shows I'm being objective.
What?
It shows I'm being objective.
That's right.
Although a lot of the Enlightenment thinkers which influenced the founders came from the UK, and and they were influenced by Christianity and similar values. But yes,
I mean the concept of how America began, the founding, what led up to the founding, what led up to the War of Independence, the American Revolution, the drafting of the Declaration of Independence, and how that led to the creation of the Constitution, is just so fascinating and quite miraculous. And when you look at the writings of the founding fathers and how dedicated they were in believing that what they were doing was sort of the will of God, and implementing a place where people could worship God freely, a place where they saw the divine hand in everything that they were doing. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing. The fact that soon after the Declaration of Independence was drafted, that immediately when the seal of the United States was being created, and they gave that task to some of the early founding fathers, two of them came up with biblical images that represented what our country was about: the splitting of the Red Sea, right? or the God leading the Israelites through the desert. This concept, which really sums up the dedication that they had towards God and towards implementing what in their minds was a biblical a nation that is tied heavily to the Bible and belief in God. Obviously, it's going to be different outcomes and whatnot, being that there's no oral tradition, or they don't have the Torah's oral tradition in Christianity. But nonetheless, the principle that we are a nation that is sort of reliving the divine hand taking us out of an oppressive government and an oppressive situation and bringing us to a place of freedom where we can serve God freely, it's such a beautiful idea. And I believe one of the keys of America's success in the last 2+ centuries is the fact that we're so rooted in the Bible, and that God plays such an important role in our lives, that in God we trust can literally be found on the money. I know that's a fairly recent thing, but the concept of in God we trust all the way goes back right to the founding. And it was even one of the verses that we don't sing in the national anthem, that was written by Francis Scott Key, mentions the words "in God we trust." So it's clearly a center. Clearly, it is the nucleus of what America is about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what's so fascinating is how, one of the charges that sometimes people make against the Jews is that they're very particularist towards their people and the concept of chosen people and whatever. But as someone so beautifully put it to me, the Torah is particularist in its methods, but it's universalist in its ambitions and in its aims. And it's amazing how you had these founders of America who saw within the Exodus story and within the biblical narrative universal principles that they applied to creating a nation. And so I think that the Torah has a remarkable paradigm for having a balance between particularism and universalism, which the founders of America also really created in saying that we're going to create a nation with a unique identity, but also one that will be open to diversity of, but at the same time requiring, if you're going to be a member of our nation, you bind to certain basic principles and in terms of how this nation is going to be shaped and the values that form this nation.